Hello, my name's Sarah and welcome to the channel. I'm also known as Wide-Eyed Wolf on several of my accounts online. Um, so if you see it, it's probably me. Welcome here. I document, I guess about everything that happens. Because why not? I'm at home, not really doing much else. I've kind of just sort of been doing things. So I thought, well, I've got a phone that works with a good camera that works. So I thought I might as well. So join me, I suppose. Anyway, on this video, I was going to document some of my, shall I say, misadventures with slip drip syndrome. I've touched on it a little bit here and there on my channel in some of the vlogs here and there. I've kind of mentioned it. I think the last health vlog I did, I gave some specifics that I had found some, statistics and facts and things like that. But it's not exactly like a professional level video. So I'm trying to do a little bit better this time. See if I can get a little bit more traction, a little bit more eyes on this condition. I do think this condition is far more common than a lot of people think it is. I think a lot of people are misdiagnosed or just go undiagnosed, and because nobody ever knows what it is. And so it gets missed out. And people end up suffering in terrible, terrible pain because nobody can tell them what it is. It seems to be idiopathic. They can't find anything on X-ray, CT, MRI. Nothing, of course, in the blood work. And when they come up empty-handed, they just sort of go, oh, well, I guess nothing's wrong with you. Right. So anyway, that was starting to be my story until I ran across some information that changed everything for me. So I thought I would share a little bit of my journey and, some stuff I've learned along the way. First of all, when this first happened, this started in either the end of May or the 1st of June in 2022, last year. And at first it was just a pain in my back. And, initially I thought, oh, I've pulled a muscle, I've strained it, I've run into something, I've hurt it, it's bruised, it'll go away in a few days. And I didn't worry about it, which, totally reasonable at the time. Except it wasn't gone in a few days. And after about 2 months, I was starting to think, something might actually be wrong. So I was like, well, okay, let me try to see what's going on. I think I went and saw a chiropractor a couple of times, and it's one of those things where it seems to help for like a few hours, but it doesn't go away. I was like, man, I don't know what's up with my back. Well, eventually it got to the point where I could no longer sleep during the night. I would sleep about an hour, and then the pain in my back would wake me up. I would have to sit bolt upright in the bed. Sometimes I sit up so fast I scared my husband awake, which is hard to do, by the way. I would end up having to sit up in the bed for about an hour before I could lay back down. Then I was able to lay back down and sleep for an hour. And I would do this all night. Eventually I got to, I would come in here and sit in this chair. This is called a chair and a half, as you can tell. It's pretty big. I mean, it's kind of made for two people. Maybe not two people my size. I'm a little bit fluffy. But oddly enough, I had better experience sitting in this chair than I did in my recliner. And that's a recliner I got specifically because I tend to be in a lot of pain, and sometimes I just don't want to lay in the bed, and I want to lay in the recliner. And the recliner makes me feel better. It helps my joints. Sometimes the recliner is the only thing that gets me through the night. So I love my recliner, but I found myself not even able to lay in my recliner. Laying back any at all on my back hurt. So what ended up happening was I was sleeping kind of sideways in this chair, kind of leaning over on the armrest of the chair on this pillow, just kind of balled up, sleeping basically contorted, because that was the only way I seemed to be able to sleep. And that if I slept like that, I could sleep more like an hour and a half or two. That was enough to get me by. Although after about 2 months of this, clearly I was getting so tired that I just almost couldn't deal with it anymore. And it was so just reaching complete and total exhaustion. And it was terrible. Rix, what do you see? If it's a spider, please kill it. Rix, come here, buddy. I want a hug. Oh, there we go. Oh, not the red
arms.
You would lay right on him, wouldn't you? Oh well, I'll tolerate him. After doing this for a while and the exhaustion just set again, I was finally like, okay, it's time to do something. So I went to the doctor and I was like, here's what's going on. Besides that, everything else is going great. I had started my diet, it was going great. I had gone back on my fasting, it was going great. I was actually starting to lose weight finally after about 8 months of plateau. I was finally starting to dip down and lose weight, and I was feeling so good about it. I was so happy. And then this came along. I was like, well, you know, there's all this pain. So she wrote me initially for some NSAIDs and suggested physical therapy, which was also my suggestion, to be fair. I was like, hey, maybe we should try some physical therapy. She agreed. She wrote me for physical therapy. And I did that for about the next 4 months. Initially, they weren't able to figure out what it was either. They were evaluating me for this and that and the other, and never really came up with anything until finally one day I went to do a stretch, and they're like, oh, hey, look, your scapula doesn't move. They're supposed to when you move your arm. Those muscles were atrophied, and I get to build those back now. In other news, they never quite figured out the, why are you growling? Don't growl, please. I'm gonna close the window. You all having a fit. Riggs. Riggs. Look at here, Riggs. Riggs. Riggs, hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. Mwah. Mwah. Hi, buddy. I still get to work on this atrophied muscle. But we never really got anywhere. It never really seemed to help, and really after physical therapy it almost seemed worse, and I was like, oh, you know, maybe it's just where I'm working this out, you know, no pain, no gain, and all that whatnot. We just weren't getting anywhere. By this point I was laying over the ottoman to rest. I would lay on my belly and hooked over my ottoman such that, such that my belly and my ribs were laying on the ottoman, and my shoulders and my hips were hanging off either side. And for some reason, that pressure that was pushing this way on me kind of seemed to bring relief, or at least it did initially. So I was doing that for quite a while. You know, it was not uncommon to be like, hey, I wonder where Sarah went, and you'd look for me and you'd find me in the living room laying over the ottoman, of all places. And I was there just all the time because that was the only relief I could get. Eventually that quit working, and really it eventually kind of almost made it worse. And even now I'm not able to lay on my belly currently, and we're a year in. It is April the 28th, I believe, and of 2023, and I still can't lay on my stomach. So time went on, you know, I went back to my doctor. She doesn't know what's going on. Eventually this nausea kicked in, but except it was a strange kind of nausea. It was like kind of like when your stomach wants to growl and you sort of get like a cramping sensation in your belly, you know, and it's trying to growl, so it kind of hurts, but it's not really bad, and then your stomach growls and it feels better. It's kind of like that, but if your stomach never growled, so the pain never left. And then that pain steadily gets worse and worse and worse. So I had to... Why? Why would you growl and set him off? So with the nausea getting worse and no amount of Pepto-Bismol or Tums were fixing anything. So then I was just kind of on my own with it. Like I said, I was on the NSAIDs plus the medicine that coats your belly to prevent the NSAIDs from giving you ulcers, and none of this mattered. It just didn't care. So, you know, going through the doctors and nobody knowing what's going on. Just a very peculiar set of symptoms. So all the pain and stuff that was going on, nobody knew anything about. And finally it happened. I tried a new chiropractor, and he said that he could feel in my back that something was off. And I was like, okay, well, what is it? Because nothing shows on x-ray. I even went to the ER one night because I woke up like screaming and crying and could not deal. So My husband at 4 o'clock in the morning, on a morning that he worked, bless him, said, "That's it. Get up, get you some clothes on. You're going to the ER. We're getting you some help because this is ridiculous." So we went to the ER. Actually, I ended up, he gave me some, it was like Ketorolac and gabapentin in the form of like an ointment to rub on, that it would penetrate the skin and kind of give it sort of a numbing sensation, which it did. It worked really well. But unfortunately, my doctor didn't know what it was, and so she couldn't write for it. So anyway, I go to see this new chiropractor, and he was like, "Oh, I can feel that it's off." And I was like, "What's off?" He said, "You have a rib that is turned." He's like, "It's not out of place. It's like it's turned, like at the where it articulates with the spine. It's just turned forward, so you could imagine that that would cause, the front of that rib to be angled downward." And he said, "So yeah, that can cause a lot of pain." He's like, "That's an incredibly common thing I have to fix." And kind of fix it he did. However, again, it only seems to work for like an hour or so. So eventually, my primary care refers me to a pain doctor at a pain clinic, and she is, her initial assessment was to do a nerve block on those two ribs. By this time, I had just come up with information about slipping rib syndrome. The only way I even hit on slipping rib syndrome was that I Googled something to the effect of like conditions that would cause a rib to turn or cause a rib to twist, which even as an x-ray tech was something I'd never heard of before. Eventually, like there wasn't a whole lot of results on Google even for that, and I ran across an article on slipped rib syndrome. I'm like, hey, this doesn't really sound like anything I would have, but let's read it anyway. So I read the article. It was like, I don't know, the Healthline article or something like that, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. This is me. I didn't even realize that some of these symptoms that I had were even related to slipped rib. I checked it out, and when I went to the pain clinic the first time, I was like, hey, I think this is what's going on. And she's like, well, I don't know, but we'll see. And her first suggestion was to do a nerve block. So we did a nerve block, and she said, I would expect this to last you anywhere from 4 to 6 months. We can do 4 of these a year, and you shouldn't need that many. So she's like, at worst case scenario, you're gonna have 3 months of relief from this. And it's like, okay, well, I got 2 months. And she could not believe it. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm back to not being able to sleep. I'm back to sitting up at night because I can't lay down. We even bought a new bed because we thought that it was related to my back and not being able, I was having to sit up at night. So we bought a bed that would sit up, and thinking it would make a difference. And it kind of does. It does help. But that's not really a feasible option for everybody. When you've got something like slipped rib, you can't just go buy a bed, a $4,000 plus bed that's going to fix it. So, it's like, hey, I need a more permanent solution. So this nerve block did not work. It worked for about 2.5 months. I almost made it to the 3 months mark, but not quite. And she was like, that's weird. So she volunteered to do another nerve block, this time on all 3 ribs. The first nerve block was only on 2 ribs, ribs 8 and 9. The second nerve block was on ribs 8, 9, and 10. That gave me total relief that time, except it only lasted about a month. Well, if you look up the statistics on slipped rib, where slipped rib is concerned, one of the indicators for slipped rib is when nothing else shows up on MRI, CT, X-ray, blood tests, and a nerve block fails. It either doesn't work or the relief does not last. That is considered a clinical indicator for slipped rib, is that, guess what, the nerve blocks just don't work very long. So as far as I'm concerned, that's my confirmation. That's all I needed to know, is that, hey, I had 2 nerve blocks inside of 3 months, and 4 or 5 months in, I'm already done. Like, I can't have any more nerve blocks. So it was about this time, in January of 2023, that I was trying to gather all the information on sleep drip I could, and I ran across actually on YouTube, believe it or not, a doctor named Dr. Hansen. I believe his first name's Adam, perhaps, and he's in West Virginia University and does surgeries on slipped rib, has been pioneering the way for slipped rib surgeries that are not excision of the affected rib, which is definitely somewhere you just really don't want to go. As an x-ray tech, I cannot believe that was even suggested. That was like, we'll just take the rib out. It'll be fine. You don't need that. So I got an appointment with him. I scheduled it in January, and my appointment is May the 2nd. 5 months. And when they said May the 2nd, I thought, I am never going to make it that far. I am not going to survive until May. I can't. This pain is too unreal. It's not fair, and I can't do it. Well, I'm still here, and it's April 28th. So, I'm doing it. I've been counting down the days literally every day since about mid-March. I've literally just been counting down the days, kind of like counting down to Christmas or something, except doctor office visit. Here we are. We've made it here. What struck me odd was that the pain eventually went from being specifically just in my back, which is still easily where the bulk of it is. That's still by and large, the vast majority of the pain is still in my back. However, over time, it started to kind of wrap around the side. It hurts under my arm, and sometimes if I've got pressure on the ribs, like when I'm trying to lay on my side or on my back, and those ribs are shifting and they're moving, I can actually feel it at my sternum. I start to feel pain kind of close to my sternum in the front of my chest, which of course, if you say chest pain, everybody panics. The pain has been absolutely unreal. And I don't mean to downplay it. I feel like I downplayed it in my description of how I got here. But the pain is unreal. And when you feel like none of the medicine's working, none of the medicine's helping, even what help it does bring is so fleeting that it just doesn't help. For myself, I'm on 2 antidepressants, Cymbalta and bupropion? Wellbutrin. It's more commonly known as Wellbutrin. We'll go with that. And both of those are known to help with nerve pain. I'm on a stronger anti-inflammatory called piroxicam, and I'm on gabapentin, and I am on 600 milligrams of gabapentin 2 times a day. And anxiety medicine, because I need that. All of that has been working. The gabapentin, I feel like, has done easily the most for my pain. I started on a very small dose of it, about 300 milligrams twice a day, and my pain doctor finally put it up to 600 twice a day, and she said, let me know how that goes. So that's been actually doing better for me. It does not take the pain away completely, but it does take a good deal of the edge off and makes it far more bearable than it was. That said, it still really sucks. As you can see, these bags under my eyes here, I do not wear makeup. These are legitimate bags, and this is what it looks like. Every morning, at night, I go to bed about midnight, and every morning I'm awake by 4 o'clock, guaranteed. That's just the full amount of time I can lay down and sleep at a time, is about 4 hours. So, it's really, and then, by 10 o'clock in the morning or noon, I'm like, oh my god, I'm exhausted. I need to go back to sleep, because 4 hours is not enough. I'm 32 years old, and 4 hours of sleep is not enough anymore. Like, this ain't going, this ain't happening. So I have to go back to sleep. And I sleep for another 4 hours, and then as you can see, this would disrupt your life immensely. Like, imagine if I was trying to work through this. That wouldn't be going well. I'm already disabled for other reasons, but that's the different video. So, fortunately, I'm not working and trying to work through this and deal with all this. But the pain is just absolutely unreal. I've not been able to play with my horses. I haven't been able to work with the dogs. I can't help clean the fish tanks. I can't help take care of the birds. I've just kind of been sidelined on everything in my life. My poor husband has, not only had to do all the stuff he does normally because I'm disabled, but now he's added in even the small things I could do. Like, at least I was able to do the dishes sometimes. I could do a handful of dishes at a time and keep the sink clean, right? And now even that has become so iffy because the pain has actually radiated up my side and into my arm, and this arm even will become weak from the pain that's in my side. I mean, that's how severe it is. It wraps all the way around, front to back, up and down. It'll hurt all the way down to my hip, in the back, in the side, and upward up to my neck, my shoulder, and my arm on the front. And it's just an unbearable amount of pain. It's unreal. It's made me feel very isolated. Not to mention, like I was talking about, having to eat a lot because of the cramping that was happening in my stomach. And I've gained weight. Like I said, I was 194 pounds in, I believe, November. And that was when I was starting to kind of lose weight. I had dropped, I was right at 200. I was starting to lose weight. I was starting to come down finally. And, where are you going, buddy? Where are you going? Oh, you're not going. You're staying here. Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What a cuddle, buddy. Anyway. Goodness. So, I figured out eventually that what I had to do was eat. And that eating, when the food finally started to pass kind of out of my stomach and into my intestines, I suppose it gave my intestines something to cramp against. That wasn't me. So, oh my gosh, my ribs, why are you Rex? Oh my goodness. So, I had to deal with that pain and then learn to eat. And learn to eat often. And you're talking to somebody who was fasting and eating once every day or two, depending on when I got hungry and how hungry I was. And going from that to eating, currently it's like 4 to 10 times a day. An unreal amount of food. Because sometimes I eat, and it depends on how quick it empties out of my stomach and my intestines, and when the cramping starts. And when I feel that cramping start to kick up, I go to the kitchen, I get food. Usually it's cereal, because when that cramping starts, it's not long before it has me kind of pulled down, doubled over, and walking around the house in pain, moaning, because there's no relief. And I know that there's no relief except to eat. And when I'm here by myself, I have to get my own food. And so I do the quickest thing I can think of. It's usually cereal. That's the easiest thing I can do. It's the fastest thing I can do. And that puts food in my mouth quicker. And it's not like a snack doesn't work. Eating string cheese does not help. Eating rolled ham and cheese does not help. Eating snacks it's not enough. It takes something the size of at least the small or medium-sized meal, like a bowl of cereal. Like, a couple little handfuls of like cereal, like Cheerios or something, is not enough. It just hasn't been. It has ruined my taste for food. I do not want food. I can't pick anywhere to eat. I hate eating. It's so terrible. I'm forced to do it all the time. I want nothing to do with it. I'm done. I cannot wait until after I see Dr. Hansen, and we're going to see what he says. I think we're going to come out with a positive slip rib syndrome diagnosis, and hopefully, hopefully we have surgery. Not that I want surgery, but I want this pain gone. I want it out of here. And so hopefully we get that done and I can stop. And the first thing I'm going to do is go right back on fasting and back to my diet. And I'm going to get this weight off. Currently, I've gained over 40 pounds because I've had to eat so much since this started. And I'm so mad. I am so mad, especially since I had just come over the top and was just starting to lose weight again for the first time in a couple, like 3 or 4 years. I was finally starting to lose weight again. And I was so happy. And this just destroyed everything. And this pain really has destroyed my life. It's taken everything. Even what few things I did due to being otherwise pretty physically disabled. I've got an autoimmune form of arthritis. And, it took me out of the game. It's why I no longer work as an x-ray tech, although I keep my x-ray tech title because I worked hard for that. I want to keep RT on the end of my name, thanks. Um, so it's just been a rough trip. I can't imagine having tried to work like this. I'm sure people do, and I don't know how. Um, just I just feel like people who deal with this, especially people, I've only been at this for a year. I cannot imagine being at it for 5 years or for 10 years or 15 like some people do. I cannot imagine. But that I had a chiropractor at the right place at the right time who knew what it was enough to get me to my answer. And that's the biggest contributor. Had he not said what he did, and had I not searched it like that for exactly what he was talking about, I would never have found it. And I would still be suffering with no answers and nowhere to go. I'm learning that I'm not alone, that this condition is extremely common, but people don't talk about it. People don't know about it. This kind of disease is not well known. And so many people suffer with it that it's unreal, but it's not part of the human condition to suffer like that. And just know that if you're suffering like that, number one, you are a warrior just for being able to deal with it and still get up every day and do the best you can. I just know on my trudge here these last 2 months especially to get to this appointment has just been, it's just, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. And then the next day it's like, yeah, I can do this. We're one day closer and I got this. And then that night it's like, I'm so tired and I cannot do this. And then the next morning you do it again. And you just keep fighting. And just know that you need to find a surgeon, find a doctor who specializes in this. If you can't get to Dr. Hansen in West Virginia, I've heard of patients flying in to see him. He has hand trained several other doctors scattered across the U.S. and I believe scattered across the world to do this procedure. It is literally called the Hansen procedure because he pioneered it. He figured out what made it work. So, it's definitely worth it if, you're not crazy. The pain is not in your head. It is not psychosomatic pain. You are legitimately suffering, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It's your body. You know when something's wrong. You know you do. So go advocate for yourself. Try to get some help. Just know that you'll make it. It'll be okay. And for those of us who have it, we're all in this together. And we will make it. So, it's been a rough ride. It's been a rough trip. But I'm almost at the end of my journey. I sure hope. But I wanted to cover it because I want to get more information out there. Hopefully we can start to spread a little bit more and get more of this going. Spread the word, especially if you know somebody or if you are somebody who suffers like this. Advocate for yourself. Go do your own research. Go find out and, get help. You can get help. It is not as far out of reach as you think. You don't have to suffer like this. It is not forever. It is not permanent, and you will be okay. We all can get through this, okay? I think that's about it. I think that's about all I've got as far as this goes. So, take care, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye.